Mr. Merl Craun was born in Stonewall, Virginia on February 6, 1920. Later in life, he moved to Lebanon, Pennsylvania with his parents John Elmer and Clara Bell, along with his siblings Wesley, Helen, and Eberly. After moving to Pennsylvania, Mr. Craun worked on his family's farm until he started work at Bethel Steel.
Mr. Craun had enlisted in the military in August 1943 in Lebanon, Pennsylvania. Once he enlisted, he decided he wanted to be in the Marine Corps. After he arrived, he realized it was a way to escape from working on his family's farm. Although it was hard for him to leave behind his wife, Mary, and his son, Gary, he still wanted to be in the Marines.
When they first arrived, Mr. Craun was placed at Camp Lejeune, where they began to do all of their drilling. Mr. Craun says,
more or less like going to school. You're with a gang all the time.
To Mr. Craun, it was very easy for him to adapt to military life because he really enjoyed the service and the idea of him not having to work on the farm. In fact, Mr. Craun said that if he did not have a wife or son, he would have continued to serve for his country. To start off the journey, Mr. Craun went to Camp Lejeune and started boot camp in South Carolina. Mr. Craun doesn't remember any of his instructors, but he does remember that they were constantly pushing him to be better and work harder.
From the lights going out at 10 o'clock at night to the alarms going off at 7 in the morning, Mr. Craun found that living in the barracks was not half bad. They were brick-like buildings in the shape of an H. He said it was never too cold in the barracks, and if anything, they would just have to put some socks on. After breakfast, they would go to the regular jobs that they were assigned by their instructors. Working throughout the day was easy because there were never enemies. Everyone got along with everyone.
Oh, they would help you out, yeah.
Said Mr. Craun. With only having 2 weeks at a time to visit his loved ones, Mr. Craun would send letters home to his wife and son during his time at camp as well as receive them. When men were off duty, they still did not leave the base because everything they needed was right in front of them at Camp Lejeune.
Now it was time for the real deal kind of work for Mr. Craun. His first day in the military camp was just like anything else he had done. At first, Mr. Craun was a quartermaster and then became a sergeant. For his job, Mr. Craun had to handle supplies and equipment.
Well, it's just like I was, after I went through the boot camp, but I worked in the office, as a quartermaster, sergeant and stuff.
So did you say at first worked
Quartermaster, you deliver everything that they want.
Yeah.
And you had to order it and stuff and get the stuff for them.
Stated Mr. Craun, when Mr. Craun first served, he went to Paris Island.
Asked me what I want, and I said I want a tail gunner.
Mr. Craun said the Marine base was in Cherry Point, North Carolina. At first, Mr. Craun wanted to become a Marine, and then midway through, he became a quartermaster. At first, Mr. Craun did not want to fight on the line, so he just went wherever they put him. While in the military, Mr. Craun's father passed away, which had left a huge impact on his life.
Once returning home, Mr. Craun had easily adapted to civilian life and found it to be no problem. Although he missed the wonderful military life, he was able to enjoy being reunited with his 4-year-old son and his wife. The only thing that left a hole in Mr. Craun's life was his father not being there to welcome him home and the fact that his mother had to sell the farm since nobody was there to help her take care of it. Following Mr. Craun's days of being home, he started working at Bethel Steel again. After being out of the war, Mr. Craun had found it safe to say that it was an awesome experience and he feels everyone should get involved and serve for their country. After all of Mr. Craun's hard work and dedication, we would like to thank him for his service.